Hi, this is a quick video just to discuss a couple of points when using this type of ratchet action crimp tool for header pins. I'm using HT-225D, but I think the information could be relevant to other ones as well, provided they're the ratchet kind. First thing is how much wire should be stripped. That's fairly important because if you look at the pins, that's not so bad sometimes. There's extra space if you strip too much, but with the sockets like this one, you can't really go too far with the extra stripped wire because you need space for the pin to actually fit in there as well. So I've measured what I'd had my setting to on my wire strip tool, and I've been using about just over 3mm, so about 3.25mm perhaps. That's as close as I can measure it, and that's roughly what I've been using, and that seems to work well for me. And the other thing is, what kind of wires are suitable for it, what thickness of wire, and the typical ready-made jumper wires. Their wire seems to be roughly the same thickness as this wire that I had, and I've had a look, and this is 14 cores of 0.14mm diameter bare copper wire inside there, and the outside's just plain PVC insulation. So that's what I've been doing lots of in the previous video. This is the type of wire that I used, but I also got two other types of wire here. This one has not got many conductors inside. It's got 10 strands of 0.1mm wire, diameter wire, and so if you look against typical jumper pins, you can see this wire is a lot thinner. This wire works too though, so I've had no issue with this. And there's one other one which has got more strands in it. So this blue wire's got 18 strands of 0.1mm diameter wire, but the PVC insulation on this is a bit thinner. So that's 3 different types of wire that I can try with this. Okay, there's also there's a little trick as well which I only just figured out yesterday. Maybe other people knew this, which is how to judge how far to insert the wire into the crimp tool. In the previous video, I was just doing it by visually examining how much of if I could see the copper wire coming out the other end when I was doing the crimp. So what I was doing was I was taking the crimp, inserting it into the tool like this. Like that. So it's being held in there. And then I was taking the wire, which I've forgotten to strip. Let's do that now. So this is 3.5mm, 3.25mm approximately. Then get the tool with the crimp in there, and I was pushing the wire in from this end, and I was looking to see if that wire would appear here, and as soon as I could see it, then I would crimp it, and that works provided that the wire's been stripped to the correct length. But I found an alternative way of doing that, which is actually faster. And what that method is once you've stripped the wire, and with this new method, even if you strip the wire slightly wrong, it still seems to work. If you look at one of these crimps, that one, the plastic insulation here, that can actually hit against it, so you can actually feel when the insulation is in the correct position inside the crimp. I'll try and explain this. So as soon as I'm inserting the wire in here, hopefully this is in focus, I can hit that insulation against that inside edge there. So that's actually at a good position now for crimping. So the aim is to try and feel that edge. That edge there. The aim is to try and feel that with the insulation. So I'll try and just demonstrate that. So I've got the wire here stripped, and so without actually looking to see how far the wire's been pushed in, I'm just going to go and feed this in like that, and then if I feed the wire in at a slight angle, I can actually feel that that's in the correct position. So I've not actually had to look on the other side to see how far that wire is in. And now if I crimp that, you can see it there. So that's actually crimped it just right. So this is actually good if your eyesight isn't great. Mine isn't great, and I sometimes need to look very closely to see if the wire is coming out the other end when I use that crimp tool. But with this method I don't need to do that, I can just go by feel. And I've tested this. This method also works with a thinner wire. It's a little bit harder because if the insulation is quite thin, then you've got to feel for it a bit more carefully, but it does work. So if I tried doing that with, this is the 10 strands of 0.1mm diameter wire, so thinner than the other wire. And if I strip this, for thin wire I tend to use this wire stripper, which doesn't have a depth indicator, but that's okay. So I only eyeball it anyway, so that's about just over 3mm. Actually, I can measure that. 1 second. Yeah, that's just over 3mm. Okay, this time I'll use one of the sockets. So, put it back in here. Okay. And again, I'll do the same thing. When I insert this, I'm not going to insert this in square to the pin, but maybe at a slight angle to try and find the edge with the insulation on here. This should be possible because you can see here the insulation is quite a bit thicker than the wire, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do this. Okay, in it goes. Okay, I found it. So to me that looks okay. Let me rotate that. Okay, and I'm also going to test this to see if it's a good crimp or not. Let's grab that. And the thing is, this wire is quite thin, so it's not really designed for use with these pins really. I think slightly thicker wire would be better. But anyway, let's try that. Yeah, so you can see the wire's snapped, but the crimp is still intact. So the last time I tried testing this with this particular wire, most of the strands stayed inside there, but a few did come out when I tried that test. So there's two things you can do there. One is just ignore it and just live with that it won't be as strong. I mean, the wire's thinner anyway, so it won't be as strong as using thicker wire. Or the other thing you could do is not strip 3mm, but strip just over twice that, maybe 7 or 8mm, and then fold that in half, the wire, and then crimp so that there's twice as much wire in the crimp area. That works as well. That takes a little bit longer, of course, to fold the wire. Okay, so I'll try this one now. This one's 18 strands of 0.1, but quite thin insulation on here. Okay. checking it. 1, 2, 3. So again, same thing as before, I'm just going to feed that in and try and feel for that edge. Yeah, a little bit harder with this thin wire, but I've done it, I think. Okay. Yeah, maybe I made a mistake on that one. Yeah. So that actually was quite hard, and I've crimped the wire area. Has actually got a bit of the insulation in there. But this was unusual wire. This wire is quite thin. If I try and compare the thicknesses of the insulation, so this was the 18 strands of 0.1, and it has an insulation thickness of 0.95, so just under a millimetre. Whereas the other wire that I tried, which had fewer strands of the same wire thickness, this wire has a diameter of 1.87. So the thick insulation does help a little bit. And just for completeness, the first wire that I tried, which is closest to typical jumper cable wire, it's got a thickness of about 1.3 millimeters. Thanks for watching.